I just got three things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome to the Stire Sound podcast with your hosts, Trey, Stire, and Jack Noel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Episode number 14 of the Stire Sound. I am Trey Stire, and ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Super Motocross World Championship season has come to an end. Jett Lawrence, your 450 champion. Jo Shimoda, 250 champion. Lots of chaos, lots of carnage in the final round of action. MXGP also just wrapped up. Congratulations to Roman Febvre, Simon Langenfelder for winning their respective championships. A lot to talk about from a very chaotic, intense weekend around the world of racing, not just in Vegas, but also in Darwin, Australia. Thank you for tuning in, folks. A lot to talk about today. Joining me, as always, my co-host from the Dirt Bike Depot WMR KTM team. The boys jumped into the money spots at the last round. Great run from Gage Linville, running inside the top 10 during a lot of the first moto, top 15 overall, and he got to jump into the coveted top 22 in points. Jack Noel, I'm sure you're stoked about the weekend in Vegas. What's up, man? Take us through a little bit and your experience in Las Vegas for the finals of the Super Motocross World Championship.
Yeah, Vegas was super cool, right? I mean, I've been to Vegas once before, but I mean, obviously I was just going for like a little vacation and did some sightseeing and whatnot. But this time it was really fun. I mean, you're there for an event. You're there for, I know, a reason. You're there to go race your dirt bike. And I feel like Vegas, growing up watching the sport, like Vegas is the covenant, right? When Supercross is ending, everybody goes to Vegas, even like Monster Cup and stuff like that. All being in Las Vegas, it's kind of a bummer that Supercross isn't in Vegas anymore. But nonetheless, it's still really cool to end the series in Vegas. I mean, the atmosphere in Vegas, nothing, everything stays in Vegas kind of like mentality. It's always super cool, and it's always a cool night race. And the fans are always super, they kind of come in from all over to come watch this race. And it's always cool to see that. So just the whole atmosphere of Vegas, like it really did feel like a final round. It didn't feel like Salt Lake a couple years ago, or like for me, at least in 2024, where we're crowning champions, and this kind of feel of the SMX playoff with just the whole Deegan and Shimoda ordeal, and then Hunter and Jett winner take all kind of scenario. So it definitely added to the hype around the race. So it was definitely cool, and it definitely just with the triple points, it just throws a lot of wrenches and things, and you kind of have to have a good last round to have a chance to win the title. So it's definitely cool to watch, and and for the team at least, we had a really, really good weekend. I mean, Friday was good. Gage was like the first one to hit that over under like into the like by the start. Like he was the first guy out of everybody to hit that, which was cool. The crowd like definitely was like, holy crap, like people are gonna do this. So that was cool. I mean, it was definitely mixed on like track walk, like what people are gonna do there. Like were they not gonna do it? Were they gonna do it? So but Gage hucked it like first lap, which was sick. And then, you have just the overall perspective of the day from qualifying. It wasn't great in qualifying, but the times were like all within like half a second. Like if he was half a second quicker, he would have been, I think, close to that top five. And then the LCQ, just being able to stay out of the carnage. I mean, Dax crashed right in front of him, and he was able to miss that. Yoder crashed, he was able to miss that. And then for him to finish second and hold off Max Anstey for, 4 or 5 laps, which is impressive in itself, being that I think Max was borderline one of the best guys in Supercross this past year. Motos itself, I mean, heck, we got like a really, really good start. We ran like 6th for over half the moto. And that in itself was just really, really like cool. I mean, I couldn't believe how long we held on to that position for. Gage gave everything he had in that first moto, and then definitely once like the sixth, about 6 or so minutes to go, he started to fade off, and like he was holding up his position. It kind of bunched everybody up because I don't think he was the fastest guy in that like group from like 6 to 12, but he was staying out front. Like it was a one-line track, don't get me wrong, but he was able to keep in front of him, and it wasn't like he was so much slower where these guys were able to just walk right past him. I mean, he found the pace, and Gage even said to us after the race, like it was one of the most important motos of his career because Gage really like hasn't. I mean, Foxborough was great, right? But it's a mud race; you don't really get to feel like a pace or anything like that. It's kind of weird. But like a race like that, you get out front with those guys, like you feel that pace right away. Like Gage during Supercross rarely ever started inside the top 10. Granted the top 6. So it was really good. Like, and for him to obviously the LCQ getting second in the LCQ, like it helps a lot with gate pick. I mean, heck, you get instead of having 20th gate pick, which he had typically had, he's getting 13th gate pick. So definitely a huge help there, and it was good. Like it was just really, really positive, and I think that the whole weekend in itself, and then Moto 2, he had a bad start, kind of got tangled, but just stayed consistent and was able to click off guys as they made mistakes, and yeah, it was good. It sucks that Vegas happened that takes so many, like, just guys just seem to topple at Vegas for some reason, like Davies, Drew Adams, Ryder DeFrancisco, Chase, and like Henry Miller, like multitude of guys just had big crashes, which you hate to see at the end of the season like that. But I mean, realistically, like these guys are pushing for lots of money and they're going for it and stuff like that. So it makes sense. Like these guys are really hammering down, which I think is good for the sport. But obviously the safety and stuff like that, you never want to have that risk, but it's the risk everybody takes. But yeah, no, it was good. Moto 2 wasn't like anything to like write home about, but you got 15th, ended up 15th overall, scoring 21 points, I believe. And that put us in the 19th overall. So we hopped over a couple of guys that were in front of us and then stayed ahead of some guys that were in the LCQ race as well that had a good couple rounds before. But yeah, no, it was really good. And that was the goal going into Vegas was, look, like this is the race that actually matters. Like if we do well at Vegas, we can write home about how we did. And that's like my whole conversation going after St. Louis, how bad it was look, dude, like we need to regroup. Like we need to have a week at home, have a good week, come into Vegas ready to swing. Like you'll be good at this track, dude. All you need is a good start. And sure enough, that's what he did. And it really paid off, I think. And then I'm glad that we went to Vegas. We almost didn't go. It was a very last minute decision to go. But yeah, no, I'm super stoked that we did end up getting it out there. And then everything went smooth and we had a good weekend overall. So definitely looking forward to these next couple weeks off. And then we'll get back into like the off-season grind, trying to find sponsors and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be fun, and I'm looking forward to talking about the whole series and the whole race as a whole now. So I was definitely watching the Moto 2 antics between Deegan and Shimoda, so it was fun to watch.
Great weekend from Gage. It kind of reminds me of his Nashville 2024 performance and the fact that he was out there competing with factory guys, beating factory guys, whether it was the heat race or the LCQ that night. Same thing here. Beats a Star Yamaha guy in the LCQ, then runs up front for a long time in the main event, or first moto. Great performance by him, but you mentioned it. It's the hot button topic of the week. Haiden Deegan versus Jo Shimoda. Your 250 class, first moto. Joe gets out front, cruises, Haiden Deegan charging through the field. An unfortunate incident with Ryder D. Ryder lost a little bit of traction going into the sand, washed out a little bit, and then Deegan was hucking that single into the rollers, and he ends up bouncing his front Dunlop tire off of Ryder's head. He falls down. Deegan gets up, but there you see DeFrancisco in the sand, laying motionless, knocked out. Thankfully, he was able to get up. Doesn't seem like anything but a concussion, which is a miracle in itself, because when I first saw the crash on TV, I was thinking like Trey Kennard, Ryan Morris flashbacks. I was thinking the worst, but thankfully Ryder D seems to be okay. Definitely a scary incident though. And I mean, Deegan charged through the pack afterwards, got by Hammaker, a couple other guys, and ended up catching Joe, but time just ran out. Shimoda got the win. Then second moto, of course, all eyes were on it, and they line up together. Of course, you hear the bit in the press conference. Adam Enteknap, 7 deuce, asked Joe, he's like, hey, what was Deegan saying to you before the race? And Deegan basically tells Jo, be ready for anything. You're not going to know what's coming. And Jo looks over at him and says, I don't speak English. And then the moto starts. Deegan pinches Shimoda off a little bit on the start. No harm, no foul. Runs in wide on the first bowl corner, but nothing dirty. Just aggressive racing. Showing him a wheel. It was Hammaker and Levi Kitchen out front. Pro Circuit Kawasaki 1-2 early on. Deegan settled in third. Jo was back to about seventh or so, but he picked his way past a couple guys like Lux Turner, like Daxton Bennick really quick. Got around them. And then once Shimoda started ripping his way through the pack, getting close to that top three, something happened with Levi Kitchen's bike. He just stalls or something, goes off track, ends up failing to finish the moto because of a mechanical failure.
I did find out what happened. I think it was a rock stuck in his brake, so it was causing his rear brake to lock up. So that's what I actually was with Levi the other day, and that's what I heard. So it wasn't anything like crazy, like bike malfunction wise. I think it was just something as simple as a bike or a rock got stuck in his rear brake pedal, and it caused it to lock down. So it was just hammering the rear brake, which luckily enough, like the spot it happened, it was really sketchy. It was that step down where, like, if you obviously hit the rear brake there, like you're screwed. So definitely a scary moment. I think if it was anywhere else in the track, I think Levi's probably able to figure out what it is exactly and maybe be able to continue. But just with the way it all happened, I was kind of interested to hear about it from him and what he said it was. So it wasn't anything crazy, no bike malfunctions, but it was something as simple as a rock in the rear brake that kind of freaked him out. And I think it granted would, I mean, on that section of the track. So just FYI.
Yeah, good to know. I wasn't aware of that, but a very high-speed track, so any kind of brake issue would be very scary in that situation. But meanwhile, you have Jo gets into the lead. Haiden chases after him, makes a couple swings at him. Haiden gets in the lead, and then he goes and slows down and putts around again. And he's like, well, I got to take Shimoda out. Makes a few more lunges. And, of course, the ultimate final blow. Haiden runs into Jo. They both go down. Jo Shimoda picks up the bike, rides away, crowd going crazy. Deegan, broken collarbone. Jo Shimoda ends up winning the overall. He gets by Tom Vial after losing a spot to Tom in the crash. Seth Hammaker wins the moto. But Joe's like, you know what? I'm taking the overall in the last corner, and he does it. Jo Shimoda wins his first professional championship. The first championship by a Japanese rider over here in America, which is a really cool accomplishment. And something I was thinking of during the broadcast, that final Geico Honda team from 2020, the team that started the year in Supercross, every one of those guys has now won a championship. Chase Sexton, Jeremy Martin, of course the Lawrence brothers, Christian Craig has a 250 Supercross title, and now Jo Shimoda. All 6 guys who started the year on that team are champions. Really cool to think about. And of course, Geico Honda, a legendary team. I know a ton of people miss them out on the track. But Jo survives the chaos. From my point of view, watching at home, and I'll toss it over to you in a minute because I know you had a front row seat to all the things that were going on. I mean, when you're Haiden Deegan, obviously he's the fastest guy on track. He caught Jo Shimoda pretty easily in that the first moto. Like I said, he wasn't able to get around him, but if he had a couple more laps, he would have probably been able to find a way around him. And then he would pull some time on Jo, and then he'd have to slow down or he'd catch up to him. And I think it's one thing, like I was trying to explain on the TransWorld Motocross live show last night. It's one thing when you look back at Vegas a few years ago, like the 2017 Crazy Race. Zach Osborne takes out Joey Savacci for a championship, but it's last corner, it's one single move, and Zacho was always known as a clean racer. I don't think he ever had a reputation of being dirty, and that was the one time he really used that elbow grease and took somebody down. You look at the bunching race in the 450 class that night with Tomac trying to hold up Dungey and all the chaos. Yes, he was holding those guys up, but it wasn't like Deegan was where he's just like full on slowing down. Like he's keeping enough of a pace to remain out front, but also to let all of the other guys behind them, it's like Josh Grant, Chad Reed, Jason Anderson, all those guys catch up. And once again, apart from the only time I can think of besides the bunching race where Tomac ever really raced aggressive or borderline dirty was when him and Dean Wilson were trading shots and trading really heavy block passes when they were fighting for a 250 West title. But with Deegan, his reputation and his past incidents, you can't give him that leeway. And watching him intentionally slow down, lunging at Jo Shimoda multiple times before the crash happens, I mean, it was entertaining to watch from a fan's perspective, don't get me wrong. But in terms of the competition aspect, I mean, he looked like a clown out there. And going into the night, I knew he was going to try stuff. But when you're repeatedly making moves and making lunges and you fail to take a guy down, and then you end up taking the guy out, but he gets up, rides away, and you just basically embarrass yourself on national television. You injure yourself trying to basically hurt and take out the competition. It was insane to watch. I'm not surprised by any of his antics at all, to be completely honest with you. Like I mentioned, the reputation in the past. I mean, it's kind of ironic that last year at Birmingham, he just completely T-bones Cody Schock for no reason in the final corner, breaks Schock's collarbone, and he rides like a complete idiot in Vegas. And what happens? He walks away with a broken collarbone. It's kind of funny how that works sometimes. I don't know. It's just frustrating to watch because he has so much natural talent. He has so much speed. He always has great fitness. He never fades off. He's such a naturally gifted rider. And for him to ride like an idiot, to be completely honest, I mean, it's frustrating to watch. But you talk about in this day and age, all the TikToks, it's like, oh, such a savage. Oh, that ride was so cool. Jo Shimoda, I think one of the greatest mic drop rides of all time. When you talk about, of course, the whole I don't speak English comment, but Joe knew there were going to be shenanigans. Joe knew it was going to be chaotic, but he rode his own race. He never backed down and intentionally slowed down to let a gap build. He just rode his own race. He withstood the pressure for a long time, really calm in the face of it. And then when he gets taken down, he gets right back up, rides away, wins the championship as his biggest rival, embarrasses himself. I mean, it was a huge moment for Joe, and I'm thinking when all this Deegan stuff is going on, I'm like, man, I did not think Vince Freezy Abu Dhabi World Supercross could be topped or equaled. And it was almost that level of stupidity from a race. I don't know how many people will know what I'm referring to, but a couple years ago in World Supercross, Vince Freezy had the most Vince Freezy moto of all time. He got out front. He punted 2 or 3 people. He cut the track. He held everybody up. He tipped over. He made aggressive moves. It was just the quintessential Vince Freezy night. And obviously, Freezy does have a lot of talent, but when he's racing guys like Ken Roxon, Joey Savacci, Dean Wilson, guys that are at a little bit higher level than him, he races over his head and gets desperate. That's such a frustrating thing about Deegan because we know he's the fastest guy in the class. We know his talent is very good. He is an incredibly talented rider, naturally gifted, and then he has to go and do stuff like that. He could have easily just rode away, dominated the moto, won by 10 or 15 seconds, and proved to everybody once again that he's the fastest guy in the class. But he decides instead to try to keep taking somebody down and ends up injuring himself in the process, and ends up also potentially screwing up a victory for Team USA at Motocross of Nations, which is something we'll talk about in a few minutes as well. But I'll get my rant out of the way. Jack, you were there on the floor watching the action, taking it all in. Of course, you're looking for your guy Gage. But when you have such chaos going on, guys slowing down, guy lunging for his competition, take me through your point of view of this incident, what you thought of the chaos going on, and your thoughts about Jo Shimoda taking home the championship and Haiden Deegan ending up injuring himself while trying to take somebody else out.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think from some of the things that I've heard just from like the whole weekend, not just what I saw on the track, the whole Deegan family and the whole Deegan Hayden himself, like I would be really disappointed in how you handled yourself in that whole situation. I think it's very classless. And that's about all I can say. And I think that him breaking his collarbone is karma. I think what he did is stands for a championship. I understand it's for a lot of money. I understand that you have to do everything try to do everything in your power to make it happen. But there's ways to do it, and there's you get one or two opportunities to make a pass like that or something along those lines to really make it work. But there was just rumblings in the pits from even the whole Star Yamaha team, like, hey, we're gonna, bounty on somebody's head if a Star guy can take out Shimoda or a Star guy can take out Hammaker. Because in Deegan's head, it's not that he has to make Joe get third and him have to win. He knows if he does what he's going to do, he's going to get a 5-point penalty because of the whole Denver situation. So I look at it like that too. Like, he knows he has to be break Shimoda's bike or break Shimoda, which is a really, really, it's a bad way to look at it. I think it's terrible. I think it's a shitty situation. He knows he has to do that, or Shimoda has to somehow drastically mess up and be buried in the pack, which I just didn't see happening. I don't think Deegan did either. So he knows what he has to do, right? And I get it. Like, you want to make it a show and make it a fight and whatever. But it's like the way Tomac did it in 2017, I think is the most ideal way to try to make something like that happen. Because there was a chance at one point where, Tomac slowed everybody up. There was a group of 5 or 6 guys. He had a teammate in there. Like, he never blatantly went after Dungey and, like, try to really take him out more than 1 or 2 times, maybe, right? He knew he had to do something at the end of the day, but, I get, like, slowing up, letting the guy by. Like, you look at, like, Shane McElrath and Chase Sexton in the East-West shootout. Like, and Shimoda tried to do what Chase did. I think it was completely rationalized to do that. Like, Shane let Chase go by knowing he had to beat him, or at least put him on the ground to make his race worse than it was going. And Chase just tried to take off. I think that's what Shimoda did. And you have to kind of respect that. And Shimoda unfortunately wasn't able to take off from Deegan. Deegan was definitely the fastest guy on the track. But it's like, once you try it 1 or 2 times, it's like, dude, just go race. Like, go forward. Just win the race. Like, instead, he throws away, instead of making $250,000 for getting second, he then throws away probably 200, maybe even 215 grand, $225,000 by going out there and doing what he did and breaking his collarbone. Like, it's just shitty. It's really unprofessional. And, like, just even from, like, his family side of things, like, the way his family treated people, Shimoda's family, even Mitch Payton's family, and the way that they handled themselves throughout the entire weekend was really classless. And I think nobody is going to hear about that. And I wish that our platform was a little bit bigger so people could hear about it. Just the way that they went about it, and it's not even just Haiden, but his entire family, it's just not right. And I think it's screwed up. Like, I don't know if you saw, but Nyjah Houston was at the race, and there was this person in like the Monster Hospitality area. I want to say it was Joe's sister. At least I think it was. I'm not 100% sure. But, like, you see Hudson basically take this girl's hat who looks like Joe's sister, just sitting there watching the race, like nothing else. And they, like, posted, and Nyjah Houston posted on a story, but then it quickly got deleted. I wish I had screen recorded it so we could see it, but something along those lines. It's just like, why do stuff like that doesn't even affect what happened on the racetrack? But you're then terrorizing somebody's family, and on top of, like, what's already going, the stress that she's probably already going through just watching her brother race. If that was her, I'm not 100% sure, but it's just classless top to bottom. And I don't hate fireworks, and I like the way that Tomac did it in 2017, and even Osborne, like, knowing he has to make that pass last lap. It's just totally different scenarios. Like, Deegan had to make sure Shimoda could not finish that race because he knew he was getting a 5-point penalty, and it was going to take more than just that. And then Hammaker obviously couldn't win either. So it's just a whole multitude of things that I was disappointed to see. But what really kind of screws us up too is, like, I want to look back to Hammaker's 5-point penalty at Charlotte. Like, that really throws like a wrench in things. Like, if Hammaker doesn't have that 5-point penalty, he just has to do what Deegan did, right? Or not even do, but he just has to beat Shimoda at the last round to win. Because then the gap, I think, was 14 as going into Vegas. and it would have been 9. So all he had to do was beat Shimoda at the last race, and he almost did that. So the whole points thing's crazy, but I really do look at it as like a classless act from the Deegan family. You would hope a guy of his nature, who's so valuable to the sport and the future of it, would hold himself to a higher class, especially over a championship like SMX. Like, I hate to say it, but like, I don't really think it matters as much as like a championship in outdoors or supercross. It's just kind of like in my eyes, it's like a dash for cash kind of series, which is fun to watch. But it's like, at the end of the day, this trophy, this series, SMX playoffs, has no real history to it. Maybe in 25 years down the line, we'll look at it and it'll be more historic. But he's already got 2 of them. It's not like he's, whatever. It's just like to me, it's just a dash for cash. And the way that he handled the whole situation was completely and utterly classless. And I wish he would have handled himself differently during the whole thing. Like, I get talking shit and I get, chirping and making runs at guys. I get that. But it's like, at some point, what is too much? And I think after the one where he like really slid his back end into Joe before the step down, like, I was like, dude, just at that point, just go win the race. Like, don't keep trying stuff like it. But he's brake checking him in corners. He's slowing him down, like trying to saw his front end off. Like, it's just classless. And I get it, but it's like, at what point does the AMA black flag him for clearly just attacking riding, like attacking a rider? Like, that's what that is. Like, it's just, it's not like he's trying to like make it a race or like whatever. It was just bad. That's all I have to say. It was bad. But that was my whole mindset on it. Joe handled the adversity so well. I really do think that Deegan was very flustered by Levi's whole takeout thing. I think that's the first time I've ever seen Deegan really feel like flustered. I feel like he was trying to play it off as like they had to do that or whatever. But like, I think Deegan was genuinely like, first time I feel like Deegan's ever been under the gun in a scenario like that and he just wasn't able to get it done. Like, and that's to me what worries me about Deegan going to the 450 class is if he goes out there and outdoors and does well, come Supercross, he's going to have expectations of podiuming races and winning races. And I don't think he can do that. I don't think he's going to be any better than a top 7 to 5 guy his rookie year Supercross. Outdoors thing, it could be different, but it'll be interesting to see. And then the whole 450 class ordeal, it was interesting. I'll let you kind of talk about that. But that was my whole perspective on it. It was bad. I didn't like it. And I hope that he I personally, like, I've heard some rumblings that the AMA and MX Sports are trying to not let Deegan race the 250 class in MX Nations because I think he still plans on doing it. But there are some rumblings about that. I did hear about that through the grapevine. So not sure if that'll happen or not, but
I think you bring up a lot of good points there. I mean, it just, when you take 1 or 2 moves at somebody, it's understandable. It's for a championship, a lot of money on the line. But to just repeatedly try to mess with somebody's race, it was egregious. I feel like if he would have got back on his bike and been healthy and rode away, that he would have got black flagged. He would have got penalized. We've seen guys before, like I remember Chad Reed taking out Trey Kennard one time, like waiting for him and then taking him out and immediately black flag off the track. And I think, of course, back to like Weston Pike, Vince Freezy is an extreme example because Weston Pike was going MMA mode on him. But there have been examples definitely in the past where immediate black flag, yanked off the track, done for the night, whatever. Maybe you could say that Deegan cracked under the pressure. I don't know. But going to the 450 class, Jett Lawrence wins his 3rd consecutive title. Both motos, it looked like Jett was going to be down and out. Then about halfway to go, he's running 3rd. Took him a little bit to get into 3rd and pass Justin Cooper in the first moto. Eli was out front, made the move on Hunter a couple laps in, took the lead, but then Jett comes out of nowhere, storms his way to the lead, wins the race. Then second moto, it's the opposite. Hunter's out front, Tomac P2, Jett's in 3rd. He's not making any ground. Then all of a sudden, 3 laps to go, he flips the switch and ends up getting by Tomac enough to win the championship. I made the analogy last night on our live show that it's just like a switch flips. for me, what I envision in my head is like anytime you hear a lighter flick on a Lil Wayne song, like he's about to go in, what you're about to hear is going to be great. And it was like that. It just seemed like Jett Lawrence just clicked it into gear and took off. And it was a very weird scene because, of course, this is the second year in a row that it's been pretty much winner take all between the Lawrence brothers. And if Jett beats Chase Sexton, if Jett beats Eli Tomac, Cooper Webb, anybody else in this situation, it's going to be a big celebration, a celebratory mood. But this is 2 years in a row where it's older brother in that situation where he takes the title from him. And Jett, of course, the brothers, a lot of love between them, a lot of camaraderie, and they were a little upset after the end of the race. I mean, of course, you just won a championship, but like I mentioned, it's not like you're fighting some kind of other rival or some kind of neutral party. It's your brother. It's the guy you've looked up to your whole life if you're Jett. And a bit weird from the vibes afterward, but nonetheless, Jett Lawrence wins another $1 million, wins his third consecutive Super Motocross World Championship playoff trophy. With all of the happenings for Team USA and the implications, I mean, the Aussies were already favorites before, but the way they performed in motocross and super motocross, and now with the injuries of Team USA, Australia is basically win or bust, I think, now for the Motocross of Nations. That's how much momentum they're going to have carried into the event. And once again, we will talk a little bit more about Motocross of Nations in a few minutes. But Jack, another championship for Jett Lawrence. Unfortunately, your guy Chase Sexton went down very hard. Very scary incident. Seems like only a concussion and some kind of a shoulder injury for Chase, which is thankful because, man, the crash itself, obviously we didn't have a replay from the NBC crew, which definitely made things a bit more stressful. But seeing the video on social media, a very scary, gnarly incident and a night full of gnarly incidents, but thankfully it seems like Chase is a lot better off than everybody would have thought. But another championship for Jett Lawrence. What's new?
Absolutely nothing, Trey. It's not surprising. I think everybody could have picked Jett to win this title. I just am really bummed for Hunter, man. I actually feel like Hunter had a really, really good weekend going. Obviously St. Louis, he was able to kind of like get some momentum going into Vegas, which was a good change, right? But man, I don't really know what happened in Moto 1 with Hunter. He was up front, he was riding good, and then just he had the opportunity to just check out, but I think Jett just knew if he's able to go out there and beat Hunter in Moto 1, it's solid. Which it just sucks too, because Moto 2, you think about it, Hunter gets second in Moto 1 to Jett, and he's able to still win Moto 2. It changed. Hunter wins. So
Great
that's
point.
what I look at it. It's man, Hunter, really Tomac got you too. Man, he's probably telling himself that I could tell you that one hurt Hunter more than you know. And I even think with Jett, Jett was definitely bummed for Hunter too, which I really respect those two guys, man. They're just such classy dudes, and they're just so good for the sport, and they care so much about each other and whatever. It's super cool to see. And Jett's not a flaunty guy when it comes to I'm the he never is. He's not like Deegan at all, right? He's very classy. He's a good representative for the face of the sport, and he handled it like a true champion. With his beating his brother, which is really cool to see that there's two brothers that are just at the top of the game right now. It's really cool to see. So I'm really bummed for Hunter. I feel like there was more in that tank in Moto 1 where you just wish he could have beat Tomac. But don't get me wrong, dude. Tomac was riding good too, man. Tomac definitely was feeling the flow. I think he liked that kind of track. So it's cool to see. And I mean, I'm not surprised Jett won. There's not really much to talk about in that class just because it was it's kind of so cut and dry, what happened. I didn't expect any really aggressive racing from the Lawrence brothers. I expected to kind of be very, fair and square. And I think Tomac rides the same way. So Chase's crash, I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. I honestly don't even want to see it. My dad was telling me it was pretty gnarly. I just wanted to kind of shout out his training. I think that's what I even told him that I saw him today. He's recovering. I even told him, I think it's where you train, dude. The Peter Park program, it's you look back at Levi's crash, in Daytona. Like, for him to be back racing outdoors, like, it's kind of surprising. Like, that looks like a crash at the speed he was going that would throw you out for the rest of the year, and you're not coming back till, Supercross next year. But Levi's back by outdoors racing, and he's back again. He rode pretty good. But, like, Chase has taken, I don't know how many hits, and he's hit his head a lot, and that's obviously not good. There's nothing really you can do about that. But when it comes to, like, your bones breaking and your body tearing, like, I know his shoulder's weak, but I know he's getting MRI later, so I'm unsure what the analysis is on that. But, like, he said it's already feeling better, so, like, that's a good sign than it was, like, after obviously the crash itself. But I just shout out his training, like Peter Park, the way that he trains his guys, Tom, Levi, Chase. It's a really, really ideal training method. Like, how strong those guys are and how they're built, and, like, I just look at, like, some of the younger guys in the sport. Like, if you're looking to be strong and be fit, like, I would say Chase is one of the fittest guys in the class. Like, that's just the way you want to be. Like, you want to be strong. You want to be able to take hits because it's a high speed sport. You take a lot of gnarly hits. There's no roll cage here. Like, I just shout out to Peter Park and his whole training, like, the way that he trains those guys. He's got it down to a science, and it's just really, really good on how he trains, how he trains those guys and how he builds them to be able to withstand stress like a crash like that and be somewhat okay and not be completely torn apart. Which, if a guy like, you look at a guy like Ken Roxon, right? Like, he takes a hit like that, it looks, even look back to his crash at Honda, like, he just breaks, man. Like, and it's a bad break and, like, whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I think if Chase had a crash like that, it'd probably be the same thing. But I don't know. It's just, you look at crash like that, and Chase taking so many hits over the last couple of years, and for him to be, for it to be bumps and bruises and concussions and not major bone breaks and major back injuries or whatever. Like, knock on wood, I wish it upon nobody. You just have to say and look at his training and say that whatever he's doing, it's working. So I tip my cap to Peter Park, and I hope that Chase is a speedy recovery.
I agree. We hope to see Chase back and ready to roll for 2026. You talk about the Lawrence brothers being at the top of the class. I mean, it's pretty much unheard of for brothers. The only example I can really think of are between the Busch brothers in NASCAR. Both of them have won championships, Kurt and Kyle. And then, of course, the NFL, when Peyton Manning won his first Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts. And then the next year, Eli wins the Super Bowl with the Giants. Pretty much the only examples I can think of where a pair of brothers are really on top of things. And of course, we've had other great brother duos in the sport, the Stewarts, the Martins, for example. But for those two guys to be 1-2, it's insane to watch. And honestly, Eli Tomac was kind of the big factor and the spoiler of the playoffs, because you think about, like you said, first moto, Eli Tomac gets out front, leads for a long time, stays ahead of Hunter Lawrence even when Jett gets by them. If Hunter finishes ahead of Eli, he can win the championship. And then if that would have happened, I would think back to St. Louis in the first moto when Jett Lawrence was charging through the field after his bad start, and he catches up to Eli at the very end of the race, but Eli beats him by half a wheel. I mean, there's a situation where that half of wheel of Tomac beating Jett could have potentially cost Jett the championship if Hunter won it. It's interesting to look at because Tomac, of course, he had an outside shot at the title, but it wasn't really feasible because he was 16 down, not like Seth, where it was 14 down, and he still had a chance to put people between him. But interesting to see that Tomac played such a vital role in the championship, even though it was really between the two brothers. Moving on to Motocross of Nations now, of course, Chase is out. Haiden might be out, whether it's due to injury or due to him riding like an idiot, basically, in Las Vegas. Begs the question, who could we see for Team USA? Of course, Eli Tomac's still locked in. Rumor has it that it could be Justin Cooper and RJ Hampshire, which, if we have Justin Cooper on the 250, if we have RJ in the open class, I think that would be our best available lineup. I still feel like Team USA would have a podium shot with those two guys competing for the team with Eli. But at the same time, I think Before, of course, I was very skeptical on our chances of winning, even with Chase and Haiden on the team. I just felt like with the Aussies, how good they're being, how solid Webster was in the MX2 class last year, and he's coming off another Aussie title. Plus, I keep thinking about the Dutch. They have a ton of experience on that team. Holdenoff and Vlanderen have both won Motocross of Nations before. Of course, De Wolf, a former MX2 champion. It's going to be hard for Team USA, and it would have been hard regardless if we would have our original lineup. But hopefully we can have Justin Cooper, RJ Hampshire on the team because, like I said, I feel strongly about the podium predictions and the podium chance for that team if those two are the ones that end up being added to the team. But what is your perspective on things? I mean, obviously not ideal. The Sexton one you can't avoid. That's just a happenstance. It's a racing deal. It's a crash. Nothing he could have avoided. When on the other hand, your MX2 guy, what's projected to be probably the best 250 rider in the world, takes himself out and potentially off the team. What are your prospects on Team USA now? Obviously, we can't spoil too much because next week is our Motocross of Nations prediction episode, but what do you think Team USA should do with the two potentially empty slots now?
So I know RJ will be the second guy I knew, like, going into the weekend even, that, like, he was the alternate guy. So RJ will be filling in for Chase, which I'm actually pretty happy with that. I feel like it's either him or J Coop to fill that spot. And like you said, it could be J Coop on a 250, which I wouldn't hate either, to be honest. But it's just, it kind of throws a little wrench into things, just timing wise for Justin Cooper. He's had a long season. He's the only guy I think that's completed pretty much every single round. So I'm sure he's more than ready to have some time off. I know you can't pick Hammaker for the 250. I don't think you can pick Levi. It really boils down to it's probably going to be a star guy if I had to guess. I don't even know who else you could pick. I mean, maybe Dax isn't going to be around. He's leaving the team. I've heard Star wants Jeremy Martin to do it. I don't really love that. I don't think J Mart will be that good. I don't think Webb will do it. I don't think he's, I think he's kind of, I don't think it'll be like it was last year with Webb, because Webb took off quite a bit of time. I believe I don't even think he did any outdoors in 2024. I don't know. Maybe it could be Webb, but highly likely it's J Coop on a 250. But I also think there's a chance that Deegan races too. Like a collarbone, you get it plated, you could be back riding in 2 weeks. So it's definitely weird. Like I said, like even Jace Kessler, like our guy, like he got his collarbone plated the Wednesday before Southwick and then went on race. So Deegan obviously has more time to recover and recoup, so it'll be a little bit better. But yeah, definitely I could see Deegan racing still, to be honest. So, but that's if they don't get, if JQ doesn't want to do it on 250. I think Deegan at this point, it might be like a last resort thing with Deegan. But it is a bummer to not have our full squad, because I feel like that squad is the best squad we've sent since we won at Redbud. And I think it would have been tough to beat us if we had that full squad, because I think that Tomac and Chase were both able to put top 5 finishes in both their motos. And I think Deegan's able to have it the minimum a top 8 moto against the 450 guys. So it would have been tough for us to lose. But my dark horse, well, I don't want to get into that right now. I was going to say who I think would be given a watch, but I'll save it for next weekend. I would like to personally see Hammaker there, but I know he's getting surgery on his shoulder. I mean, I wouldn't even hate to see a guy like Drew Adams there. I don't know how he's feeling, but him, I don't know if PC will send anybody. I mean, you could even say like Jordan Smith, like he wasn't bad, but I think he's checked out. I think he's on vacation already. So it's tough. It's weird because it happens in the last round. Like if it obviously happens a round or two before, it's one thing. But I know they had RJ, like basically like if anybody gets hurt at SMX, like you're in, and he said yes to it already. So RJ for sure will be racing. So, but 250, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we still see Deegan. That or J Coop on a 250. That's what I've heard, at least. It would happen.
I think it would be cool to see Justin Cooper on the 250, even though it would be such short notice, but of course he was on that Red Bud winning team on the 250, and he hasn't had a chance to compete at the event since then. It would be really cool to see him back competing at the Motocross of Nations, competing on home soil again. But as I mentioned, episode 15 next week will be dedicated as a Motocross of Nations preview show. We're going to run down the contenders, the wild cards, the pretenders, talk a lot about it. Possibly my favorite race of the year on two wheels. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I can't wait to chat about it. Before we conclude today's episode, we're going to briefly run down the MXGP of Australia and some of the events this weekend. Starting with the 250 class again in the MX2 division, there was chaos. Once again, you had two guys racing for the championship, one guy taking another out. Granted, DeWolf did not make a ton of lunges like Haiden Deegan did, but Kai DeWolf tried to take Simon Langenfelder down and succeeded, but Langenfelder got up very quickly. The two of them went 1-2 in the first moto. Then second moto, the heavens opened up. It started pouring rain in Australia. The Wolf was running solid early. Langenfelder tipped over a couple times, was back around 15th or so, I want to say. He did start making his way forward a bit, and then the Wolf ended up having some kind of mechanical issue with his bike. He ended up dropping down the field a little bit, but ultimately the race was called early. It was like halfway through. When the race was called, Sasha Kunin ends up winning the final moto of the year. Shout out to Valerio Lotta from Team Honda HRC. He, too, in the final race of the year, his rookie season. Great way to end the year. Rick Elzinga had a podium in that last moto as well. The Wolf ends up 5th because they took the lap before, so it was very lucky for him after some of the mechanical stuff started to pop up. Langenfelder takes 6th in the moto. The Wolf wins the overall in Darwin, but Simon Langenfelder for Red Bull KTM Ducati Racing wins his first championship. He wins the MX2 title. No repeats in MX2 back-to-back titles since Jorge Prado in 2018 and 2019. Congrats to Langenfelder. I was skeptical, but you were on that train. You said that he was going to hold on and keep things in check for the championship. A lot of chaos in the MX2 class, not as much as over here in America, but nonetheless, congratulations to Langenfelder and to the Ducati KTM team for winning the MX2 title in a strange weekend of racing in Australia.
Yeah, congrats to Simon and Robin. I mean, Robin, that one was pretty much locked up. I think nobody had a question, a doubt going into that race what was going to happen. But, I mean, the Wolf tried everything he could. I think the way he went about it, definitely better than the way Deegan went about it. He made a very aggressive pass and then kind of just hoped for the best. I don't think he, slowed up or anything like that. I know he was messing with him maybe a little bit, but, yeah, congrats to Langenfelder. I mean, I was stoked on how Guillaume Perez rode as well on that first moto. I think he'll be good at those nations. I think he has the ability to have a really good qualifying race, just being that he knows the track already and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I think the GP series was interesting this year. And obviously, it sucks with these flyaway rounds that some of the Australian teams don't get in on it, to race them, or guys don't race those races to fill the gates, because I think it'd be fun to see how Kyle Webster or somebody like that, or a Luke Clout stacks up against some of those guys that are that race in those series. So yeah, I don't know. It was good. I mean, I only watched the highlights. I didn't get to see too much, but obviously it was a mutter, so I think they even canceled the second moto in the 40 class. But no, it was cool to see Feb lock it up, and congrats to him. I mean, a guy like him winning a MXGP title that late in his career is cool, and yeah, I think Destinations will shape up to be fun.
It was a really cool accomplishment for Febvre. Not just winning the title late in his career, but 10 years between world championships is something unheard of in the sport. And I think back to, I remember them saying when Cooper Webb won the Supercross title this year, it's it's been 4 years. That's one of the longest gaps between titles of all time. And it's really? 4 years is a long gap. But then you look at Febvre, 10 years. He was a rookie when he won the championship in 2015. And then to win it again this year. Lucas Kunin did end the year on a positive note. He won the 450 moto. like Jack mentioned, the second moto did get canceled, which is a very rare occurrence for MXGP, but it has happened in the past. I think back to Indonesia 2017, just complete monsoon, canceled the second moto. Hurlings was P2 in his final moto on a KTM. Tim Geiser was P3 in his final moto on a Honda. Fevra wins the championship, though. I believe I saw somewhere, I don't remember who tweeted the stat, so apologize to them for not giving them credit, but I think it's Kawasaki's first Premier Class MXGP title since 1998. Neither one of us were alive the last time Kawasaki won an MXGP World Championship. So congratulations to Fevra, to Kawasaki Racing Team. Of course, that is the Ice One organization that formerly ran the Husqvarna factory team for a while. And as an F1 fan, kind of cool to see that Kimi Räikkönen's team, of course, F1 legend, Kimi's team has now won an MXGP World Championship. Pretty cool. And also, like you mentioned, I would have loved to have seen the Aussies come over. The only Aussie guy that I know of that really raced it was Todd Waters. And of course, Waters is an older guy now. He used to compete in the MXGP series a long time ago. And then, of course, you had Charlie Cannon competing in WMX. But yes, guys like Webster, of course, Jed Beaton's been injured, but Nathan Crawford, some of those other guys that compete in the Aussie series, it would have been awesome to see them and how they stacked up to the MXGP regulars. And quickly before we conclude, I saw some silly season news for MXGP today. I'm not sure if you saw this or not, but Thibaut Benestant is moving to the MXGP class next year. Of course, he's aged out of MX2. He will be joining Team Honda SR Moto Blues. I believe Kevin Horgmo will be returning to that team as well. But Benestant moving to the 450 class for a French organization, which is really cool. As a French guy, I think that pairing could be really solid. Hard to tell what Benestant will do in his first 450 year with so much talent in the class. A guy who's won a few overalls in the past and got a lot of podiums at MX2. This year wasn't necessarily the greatest, but hopefully the new pairing for Benestant will work out well. But this has been episode number 14 of the Stire Sound, recapping all the shenanigans of the Las Vegas SMX finals and some of the Darwin MXGP race. Next week, Motocross the Nations talk. We're going to be covering pretty much all of the countries. Some of the countries we probably won't cover, but shout out to Team Iceland. Shout out, I believe Uruguay has a team for the first time, either in a long time or first time ever. There's some random countries that we might shout out and mention in there, but of course we'll be talking about who we think could win, who the contenders are, some sleepers, some dark horses, wild cards. We're going to be covering a lot next week and hopefully getting a perspective from both sides of the pond. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to continue spreading the word and telling people about our show. Jack, any last thoughts before we wrap up here? 31 rounds. Hard to believe that another season is in the books, but here we are, and 2025, regular season at least, is done and dusted and wrapped up. But now we have silly season to look forward to, Motocross the Nations, and even some other stuff like World Supercross and some Arena Cross to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, the off-season stuff's always fun to watch. A little bit less mainstream, but it's always fun to see some stuff like that. Just a little bit more entertainment out there for you. I think the Australian Supercross Series and World Supercross will be fun to watch. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's been one heck of a year. I'm excited for Nations too. So once that's over, I'm ready to take some time off and just chill. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Jack, for your co-hosting duties and giving your perspective from trackside at the Las Vegas SMX. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for listening. The Stire Sound is fading out.
I mean, what did he say, actually?
I don't know if you can say or not, but just elaborate as much as you can.
No, it was actually, like, not bad. Like, he said, you're never gonna know what's about to come. And I said, I don't speak English.